Last inspirer of this morning session, I have to say I had a little bit of difficulty trying to work out what I could say about this man. Because if I tried to say all of the things that he's done over the last 30 years, or even the things he's doing today, frankly, I'd be using up all of his 15 minutes. It's actually quite astounding. He has been one of Europe's leading philanthropreneurs. So a philanthropist, entrepreneur, an entrepreneur for social good. What he's going to talk to us about today is something which I believe is important for all of us. Because I'll give you a small quotation from a man whose name I forget, from IKEA, right, the furniture store. I saw this just last week. He said, sustainability, read responsibility, is no longer a nice to have. It is a must have. So if all of the companies in the industry are doing good, responsible things, or at least saying they are, how do you make the difference? How do consumers make the difference? How do end producers, right, or the customers of your raw materials, how do they make the difference between those who are truly responsible throughout all of their business and those who simply say they are and are basically greenwashing? Right? There is a way to do that, and to explain that way this morning, a way of trying to certify that business to get the credibility you deserve, please welcome Mr. Marcello Palazzi.
I'd like to ask you a question first. How many of you have had any challenges with the translation between English and French? Is it perfectly fine? I see that actually most of you are not even wearing the translator, so I suppose that English is fine. Because I was speaking a little bit fast yesterday, and Phil said, "Just be careful with the translator." Thank you very much. I would like to just say a couple of things up front, which I've actually learned this morning, and try to connect my story with what we heard this morning. So my story is about, wonder whether this is on here. My story is about what you see the logo on the right-hand side, the B Corporation. The B Corporation is a growing class of companies, about nearly 1,000 around the world, 850 already registered, and 150 who have applied to become B Corporation. B stands for benefit. And this is a movement that started in the United States about 8 years ago, has quickly moved to Latin America. I'm helping it to move into Europe, and another person, friend of ours, is doing it in Australia and New Zealand. These corporations, and I link this with what I learned this morning, are not only what Phil said, the pioneers in responsibility and sustainability, but also really practicing this goodness, beauty, and truth. And that resonates very much with this morning's session, or the various sessions this morning. These are companies that are actually implementing many of the values and the aspiration that we heard this morning. From how to engage communities in a very authentic way. How do you respect nature, work with nature, love nature? How do you express your artistic creativity in the businesses that you operate? So, and so on. But I wanted to say this because I think that sometimes we feel, responsibility, sustainability, it's a little bit of a buzzword now. But I would like to go deeper, and this is the B Corps go deeper in the sense that they are run by entrepreneurs and business owners, and I will show you some of these faces. People who really, I think, take very seriously this goodness, beauty, and truth, which often is a nice word to say, but we don't really do 100% in practice. So let me continue. Let me show you these faces. So I have a number of faces, 5 faces, and then I have a real presentation about what these B Corps are, what they stand for, and so forth. Just before I do that, what is the challenge? What is the issue? I think I say 3 things. The first one is I think we've heard here this morning, and it's part of our culture, or of our awareness today, that we have created a capitalist system that is not really working as well as it could be working. So in terms of the environment, inequality, in terms of the, in a way, the destruction that sometimes it causes. So there is this question about how do we make this system work for everyone and for the planet. Secondly is very important, perhaps even more important, that today the driving force behind much of what's happening in the world is business, is entrepreneurship. I even heard the other day, I was in Geneva, I even heard some people really questioning how our governments, our public sector, are going to be able to keep doing, providing education, providing social services, infrastructure. Many of the what we understand the public sector to be doing at the time of crisis, at the time of cutting down public expenditures. And at the same time, if we go to Brazil, to China, to India, we see how entrepreneurship and many entrepreneurs in the business world and the social world are becoming the driving force. So the second challenge is an opportunity. How do many of the new entrepreneurs in the world are able to actually gather together and form a movement, which we think is the B Corp? And this is a background. Let's get on to the faces here. So the first face, this is, I see whether this goes on. Robert Schiller, I had some text. I don't know whether they will come. There is some text that is, yeah. Robert Schiller is the Nobel Prize winner in economics. This year, he has been a champion of the Benefit Corporation, and he has publicly on TV and programs talked about how important it is to actually integrate some of the values of ethics, responsibility, sustainability, human connection in companies, so in the real work that many of us do every day. So he's a big supporter of ours, and we're delighted that he's able to be with us. Jessica Alba, as many of you know, quite a well-known actress, she's one of the B Corps. She runs a company called The Honest Company, and this is, she as a partner, and she and her partner decided to start a company that reflected the values of a young mother. How do we actually work with the same values of love and tenderness and cleanliness in the products that we sell? And this is, by the way, a cosmetic company too. So you might be interested in looking this up. This lady, Jasmine Arons, Voz, this is a company in New York and Santiago, Chile. And this company is basically using a crowdsourcing model to identify designers in many countries in South America to make beautiful artistic designs for clothes that are then sold on in New York. And it's very interesting example of what you can do with some of these new developments we heard this morning. So she's a B Corporation. This gentleman, English, John Elkington, he is the founder of Sustainability and Volans, both of which are B Corps. John has for 30 years been working around ecology and business, and lately with the company Volans is really focusing on social entrepreneurship and social business. And he's also B Corp. Both companies are B Corps. This gentleman, many of you probably know, Yvon Chouinard, Patagonia. Patagonia is a company, we say here less is more, meaning some of his latest advertisements say, buy less of my product. Because he thinks my product are very good, and we don't want to maximize just sales. We want to maximize, satisfaction of our consumers. And he realized that, in fact, we come to a place where we buy too much stuff, and therefore it's better for him and his company to actually encourage people to buy less. So these are 5 faces. There's one more here, Maria Correa. This is actually very pertinent for you because she runs Natura in Brazil. Natura is in 7 countries in South America, including France. And if you're interested, you can look up the website. There is all kinds of practices that they use, from cradle to cradle, circular economy, engaging with communities, purchasing from communities. There's actually, I would say, kind of best-in-class pioneering behavior from the cosmetic companies. Very interesting. And again, they promote the solidarity, human development. These are some of the other logos of companies in the B Corp community. And I will get on to this in a moment. This is a sort of summary of some of the Ben & Jerry, Patagonia, Etsy. Etsy is a sort of we call them a cultural eBay. It's like an eBay with really, very selected, high-quality products that, in a way, embody the culture of many of the countries where they come from. Now, this is the second part of the presentation. This is actually the B Corporation as it is. So the B Corporation, if we look here on the left, you have 20th century. This is how, in a way, capitalism has been, how we know capitalism to be, shareholder-driven, maximizing profit, which some of us are questioning and want to change. And down at the bottom, you see on those three gray squares some of the trends. 60 million conscious consumers in the world, so-called cultural creatives, 2.7 trillion socially responsible investments, and 100,000 social entrepreneurs and social sustainable businesses. So a growing convergence of forces, which is allowing us to realistically, and not just in theory, talk about a new way of doing capitalism, the 21st century stakeholder corporation, creating social, environmental, human value at the same time. These are actually the story, in a way, behind this B Corporation. Continue here. So this one I will do more quickly, but here you see, if you start from the left you have in a way, this is the triangle of the B Corp. What it actually means in practice. The benefit corporation on the left, it's about the legal impediments, particularly in the United States. When you become a limited company or a public company, you can actually be sued by your owners for not pursuing maximum profits. So someone could say, well, you're spending too much on your community engagement, and we don't like that. And you can be sued by your shareholders. So in 20 states in the U.S. now, the legislation has been passed to basically allow companies to become benefit corporations, which means that you can avoid being sued because you state up front, our company stands for stakeholders, for the benefit of society as well as our own benefit. So that's very important. At the center of the diagram, up on top, you have this certified B Corporation. This is, let's say, a step in between where you become certified without using the law. For example, in Europe we have 2 or 3 countries like Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, where some companies have actually changed the law with their Chamber of Commerce to be able to become B Corps. In other countries haven't yet, but company can still be certified whilst we work to actually change the law in those countries too. And thirdly, on the right-hand side of the slide, what we call the B Analytics, this is the investment side, the finance side. So from the beginning, B Corp was working closely with the socially responsible investment community to enable funding and money to go from the more ethical investors onto some of these companies. That's an important part of this triangle. So all three, in a sense, reinforce each other. Continue. So this is, if you look down away from the big red square down below, it's about best-in-class companies in innovation, sustainable development, governance, social engagement. So it's actually more than just sustainability or responsibility. And increasingly, the innovation and the kind of stories we heard this morning, how do you use the latest technology? How do you use the digital media? How do you use crowdsourcing to be able to improve your products and your services? It's really very much part of what we see the B Corps in Europe moving forward. Some of the logos, I think you've seen this already. Here, the 3 continents where we are working. Sistema B, by the way, I like to say, in Latin America, South America, I would say, there was a meeting actually in Santiago, Chile in June where 1,700 people attended, including the Minister of Economic Affairs, because they see that there's a real new entrepreneurial revolution happening in South America. And many, particularly the younger generations, people who have been to business school or studied at university, they would like to be a B Corp instead of a normal company. They want to be seen as being different. And so there's a real, very quick take-up in South America, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. This is on the right-hand side. There's too much text, but just look at this Declaration of Interdependence. This is part of this kind of step that is required to become a B Corp after you do an assessment. It's 200 criteria, so there is an auditing process that sort of certifies how serious the company is, and then you have to sign this declaration of interdependence. Interdependence with nature, with people, with the system in which we live. So this is, in a way, the philosophy behind it. So this is part of what you do as a B Corp. Here, in the middle of the slide, 15,000 users. What that means is that 15,000 companies have actually used the tool, the assessment, to measure themselves against others and for their own purpose. Now, this tool is free. It's available on the internet. It costs nothing. And it's very valuable for companies that may not yet become B Corp, so they're just thinking about it, but at least they can learn from the whole community. Why become a B Corp? I said earlier on the big issue is, or the big issues are, a new kind of capitalism, creating the space and the network for many of the entrepreneurs in society to come together. And then here you have some more, in a way, reasons why to become a B corporation. But if we speak to existing B Corps, it's clear that they want to be part of a peer system. I spoke to a gentleman in Buenos Aires who runs a family shoe company. He says, I'd rather sell to other B Corps around the world because I know that they will be the kind of ethical companies I like to work with. So there's definitely this kind of global network. Secondly, attracting investors, as we said, and engaging talent. We discover, I speak quite a lot at business schools, and many of the young generation entrepreneurs, they would like to work with a company like this, Why not? If you have a choice, why do you want to work for a really kind of, say, integral, authentic company? So there is... there are several reasons why we think, and the B Corps that have become part of the community tell us why they become a B Corp. Legislation, again, I mentioned it already, some states in the United States, 20 actually, and now we're doing this in Europe. And then finally, this is, if you look there, it says building a new sector of the economy from, green buildings, clean tech, sustainable telecom, real estate. We are mapping out all the sectors that are really creating a new economy and try to overlap them with B Corps. So the strategy now going forward, and maybe two messages that I'd like to share with you. One is we are identifying kind of best-in-class companies in each of the sector and inviting them to join this movement. Secondly, we've been going around Europe and different European countries to do the same kind of talks and workshops around what it means to be a B Corp. And then finally, as I was sitting here and then Phil kind of triggered me yesterday, I think there is actually a special quality in France. There's a sort of culture and a sort of DNA that's part of the philosophy, part of your history, the kind of combination with artist and style, also, this liberté, égalité, fraternité, which is French and it is European, and it's something which we have lost in this kind of Anglo-Saxon capitalism, which, in many ways is very good, but in other ways has done some destruction. So I think that the French contribution to this kind of movement, or more responsible, more sustainable, more, in a way, human companies, can be quite important. So I'll invite any of you, if you wish to continue the conversation, maybe later on this afternoon, come to me and we can talk more about what it means to be a B Corp. And thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Grazie mille, Marcello. Thank you so much. I think I would encourage all of you to think about this, to go back to your companies and think, shouldn't we be a B corporation? And I'd like to think that next time we come to Centifolia, maybe in 2 years, I don't know when we'll do this again, but I'd like to think, how many more people will we have in the room who is a B corporation? I think we already have one in the room, right? Because I understand we have a representative from Natura who is here. So you can talk about B corporations to him, but also to Marcello during the break. And the break is what we're going to be doing now.